In this video you'll find out if your altcoins will survive, and yes, I really mean that. The method is quite simple. You can apply it to most of your altcoins, and make sure to watch the whole way through as I'll be going through a lot of your favorite. So let's get right into it. So the way it works is by analyzing the relative strength of your altcoin to Bitcoin, and seeing if it can hold its weight against what will be the brunt of the force from Bitcoin dominance trending up, likely getting to around 60% eventually, which a lot of people are calling for. Ben Cowan talked about something similar recently about if an altcoin can form a bottom against Bitcoin, which is the perfect way to summarize what it is we're looking for. So shout out to Ben for that. It's a tactic I've been using for a while and one that every crypto investor should add to their arsenal. And to really simplify it, the idea is this: can an altcoin fend off Bitcoin's strength and ultimately reverse that trend, where in order to do so a bottom would have to be formed? Or is that altcoin going to continue getting beaten and never be able to overcome Bitcoin, which would also technically mean it's on the path of dying out? You see, when we think of crypto dying and 99% going to zero, we often assume that in terms of the USD value, which yes can be true, so look at Terra Luna for instance, which went to zero and died. But in crypto, a dead token more so alludes to its Bitcoin pair, where it has eternal weakness against Bitcoin and is thereby treading towards zero. Something like Dash Bitcoin for example, which since its bull run in 2017 has been slowly but surely going towards zero on its Bitcoin pair. Meaning yes, even though Dash currently sits at a USD valuation of over $20, which obviously isn't zero, it still doesn't mean much because it's dead relative to Bitcoin, and the harsh truth is it's been this way since the top it formed in 2017. And it's not just Dash, but as we'll see, there's a lot more altcoins, some of our most treasured, which will also face the same fate after forming its top in 2021, and also marking its death. Let's actually get into a bunch of these examples now, as I feel it'll really help us understand the significance of what it is I'm talking about. So Cardano is the best example by far. The ADA Bitcoin chart will show us everything we need to know. We have this initial 2017-2018 bull market run-up, as many good altcoins tend to outperform Bitcoin in their first cycle. And note I say first cycle, this is a very important point we'll get to later. And then after that we get the brutal bleed downward where there's no end in sight. And this zone right now is what a lot of altcoins are going through. But in this next zone here, this is where all the money is, as this is where we make or break everything this altcoin will be. And that is the idea that in the pre-halving and halving year, which is the time frame we're entering right now, will said altcoin be able to hold its own and form a bottom on its pair against Bitcoin, or will it capitulate and continue bleeding with small reliefs, rallies here and there, but ultimately in its demise towards zero? Well, we can see that Cardano during that time frame formed a horizontal level around 400 sats that it did not break. Instead, it held that level and accumulated for over 8 months, before reversing its trend and forming a series of higher highs and higher lows before ultimately doing a 100x from its bottom of 3 cents to a top of $3 in USD terms. And I can say with conviction that if Cardano did not hold its own against its Bitcoin pair, then it would have done far less than a 100x. It still would have gone up in USD terms, but nowhere near as much. And so if that is the case, and we're sitting here trying to make 20, 30, 50, 100x's in USD terms with our altcoins, then it's very important to consider its relationship with Bitcoin. In fact, you can say it's everything. And if we look at Cardano BTC now, we'll see thus far it's doing something relatively similar. It made a top at the same level. And so now if you're an ADA investor or plan to be, you want to see ADA again form a bottom, which up until today is not the case at all. I'm not even sure if we can call this lower lows and lower highs. It's just constant bleeding downward. And so Cardano is still yet to form that bottom, and we could very well get back down to that 400 sat level before forming one, which in that case would be over a 50% correction against Bitcoin. With that knowledge established, let's explore a plethora of different altcoins now. Solana BTC lower highs. Could it be forming a base here? Maybe. But could we see a correction down again like we often have? It's possible. But these ADA and SOL charts are actually not that bad, more so that we expect further downside on their BTC pairs. But they're relatively healthier and not those that will die. So if SOL can do something like this, that'd be great in USD valuations. Algorand BTC is an example of a different story, however, unfortunately for my algo fans, even if we ignore these massive candles and go down to the localized norm. As we can see, even now Algorand is bleeding with no end in sight, a lot like its USD pair. I'm not saying Algorand is dead quite yet, but it's not exactly looking healthy. We'll keep an eye on this thing. I'll probably make an update video around the halving to see what these altcoins have done, so make sure to sub for that. Polkadot BTC has reached some critical levels here, constant bleeding downward but a slight pause these last couple months. If there were ever a time for Polkadot to begin showing strength and life this bear market and start forming that base, it'd be better if it came sooner rather than later. Now I know what you're thinking. Payne, you keep showing me examples that aren't looking that ideal. How about some examples of projects that are looking strong? Well, one that comes to mind is Render BTC, and we've been bullish on Render on this channel, this being a big reason why. Pretty much highlighting exactly what we want to see. Where a lot like its USD pair, it was first stagnate early 2021, had its initial run up, then the meltdown where the USD pair actually went lower than those pre-run up lows. And yet the BTC pair held those lows, spent 8 months holding that low of 2300 sats, and ultimately reversed that trend to where it is over 300% off lows and making a slew of convincing higher highs and higher lows. And as long as Render can maintain this strength on its Bitcoin pair, its USD valuation will be optimized to perform very well, as it has thus from a low of 40 cents to a local top of $3. And it's not even the bull market yet. Now Polygon BTC is probably one of the most interesting, and looking at this chart you'd be able to tell straight away why. Looking a lot like the current BNB USD chart, and all the FUD that's around that. Let's just say if you're a Polygon fan you hope these are the new range lows, because otherwise that's a long way down. AVAX BTC again a downtrend. Hopefully Avalanche fans form a bottom around these lows, but note a 70% correction down to old lows is more than possible before we get any type of accumulation. And if we look at our BTC, well, what do we have here? A new project with little data. And remember I said we'll talk about new projects that still need to undergo their first cycle. So something we've been on record about several times is that new projects that still have their first bull market ahead of them are at a massive advantage, because they still need to undergo price discovery for that first time, and can thus get to very high valuations relative to older projects. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen, that exact same ideology applies to the topic of this entire video, the Bitcoin pairing. But not just that, it actually applies even more, and the reason is to this day, there have been extremely few altcoins that have made a new high on their Bitcoin pairing over multiple cycles. Even ETH in the 2021 bull market made a high significantly lower than its previous BTC high in 2017. For these new projects yet to undergo their first cycle, it'll probably get to the highest valuation it ever will against Bitcoin in the next bull run. And that's it. So we have a tremendous chance here to front-run this opportunity. But only of course if the new projects we're talking about here are actually good. I'm not alluding to some meme coin that just launched yesterday. If there's some altcoin BTC pairs you've viewed and are confused about, feel free to comment them, and I'll get back to you. But I really hope you've learned that the success of an altcoin is incredibly dependent on if it bottoms against BTC before the next bull run. And that new projects will get into price discovery not just with USD but also BTC. Like and subscribe for more content like this. Make sure to sign up to an exchange link below for all your trading needs. And remember, none of this is financial advice, and I am not a financial advisor. See you next time.